I'm a feminist, but today I asked my husband to make me a coffee and he said, I can't, I'm busy. And I said, it's International Women's Day. And he said that was Monday. And I said, every day is International Women's Day in this house. And he made me the coffee.
Wonderful.
It's a true story.
I'm a feminist,
Yes.
but I've been married 22 years. And whenever people look at me and they try and figure out the math between how long I've been married and how old I look, I always say, no, don't bother, because child bride. Because you know where I'm from, that's totally possible. So
No, that's not. It's not okay. It's not okay. But you know what? With your complexion, believable, but also disturbing.
terrible.
I'm a feminist, but speaking of that, we have a few segments tonight. So our main guests, who we're very excited about, are in the green room now, ready to go live. But some of our little cutaway segments, for tech reasons, we recorded those earlier in the week. And I am very scared that people are going to instantly see the difference between me during the week, just after I've done my PT, not having showered with no makeup, and this look, because my natural beauty, Sindhu, is predicated on a team of experts.
Well,
That's why I look like this. They're going to see the stark contrast between real actual me and this made up me, which is the one I present to the world.
but that's very good, because then people are like, well, if she can go from there to there, so can I.
Do you think this face is aspirational? It's mostly the ring light, actually. The ring light flattens out everything. I want a ring light in my life.
That lipstick is so aspirational. I thought about putting on the similar lipstick because, I was doing tech with you earlier. Then I didn't have the guts. So I went so bland that my lips look like the rest of my face. Also, my ring light died. So I really am trying to get this thing going. But no, your look is so beautiful. And I think people should see you after your physical training, and they should see you now and they should say, that's what I want to do.
I mean, seriously, it's just a great big lie. I would want to take this, the ring light of Zoom. I want to take it to every meeting I go to when we're allowed back into the real world. Do you think it would be socially acceptable to sit down in the meeting and then set up a ring light so I look this good in meetings? I mean, it's going to be obvious, but it's obvious now. People know I don't look like this. Come on. These are Lola's lashes. They're magnetic.
Yeah, you told me. See, I've been aspiring for those since then. I'm going to briefly disappear because I need to fix the plug on my ring light.
Okay, well, I'll do another I'm a Feminist But in that case.
Okay, you do that.
To cover. I'm like busking now, gang. I'm busking. I'm a Feminist But. My favourite character to do round the flat at the moment is the only man on the International Women's Day panel, because there's always a man, often a man, at the prep call. I just want to interrupt now. None of the women on the panel have said anything. We're just listening to the requirements and the themes and the tech. And then the man interrupts and goes, I just want to say, have you really thought about your goals here? Because I don't really think you've thought about your goals. And what I notice as I go from company to company, talking loudly for money, is that nobody's as clever as I am. And I really have to ask you, have you thought about this at all? And then the women in charge, who've been working on this for the best part of a year, go, yeah, so our goals for this were actually in the briefing email we sent you. Yeah, here's the thing about briefing emails. I don't read them because I'm too clever and I can already anticipate what's going to be in them. But it's really great that you have got some little goals. That's a delight. Now, more about me. It's genuinely every time. No, honestly, it's not every time. If you are a man and you were on a panel with me this week, listen, if you think this is about you, well, all I've got to say is you're so vain. I bet you think this International Women's Day is about you. It's not about you. It's about another man. It's about another man. You look even more radiant now, Sindhu, with that new lighting.
That's my ring light. That's my ring light. Okay. I'm a feminist, but when my 16-year-old daughter for Christmas didn't ask for a phone or makeup or clothes, but for only books about the environment, I was like, is my child doing drugs? What's wrong with this girl?
You can't say that.
She's
the dream child. You're worried about her because she's wanting books about the environment.
No, but she didn't even ask. No, I thought she would ask for something big, like, can I have vouchers for laser hair removal or something? We're Indian. We need this. We're like Yetis under our clothes. Yeah, nothing. She asked straight for books on environment. I was like, oh God, I really want to. I said, she's smoking weed. What's wrong with her? But she's totally fine. She's reading all the time. So strange.
I don't know where Generation Z have come from, But this is my theory. Aliens have dropped Generation Z onto this planet to cure the Earth. That's all I can say, is because baby boomers and Generation X are responsible for the birth of Generation Z. And I'm X, you're X. We're awful. We're terrible people. We've ruined the whole thing.
Really? Is it us? It's not us. It's the ones before us.
Everyone looks at the ones behind, but I'm just saying, Gen Z look at us the way we look at boomers.
Yeah, but Gen Z don't know shit. I'm paying Gen Z's phone contract. Thank you so much. They don't know shit. Anyway, okay, let's go. You next.
Okay, I'm a feminist, but I guest edited this week's Stylist.
Oh.
Don't mean to go on about it. And the theme is Choose Love. The reason I'm showing you this is our charity partner for this show is Choose Love. Our media partner is Stylist. But really, I'm using both of those things as an excuse to show you, oh my God, what a glamorous photo. This photographer, Billy Sheepers, is a genius. Obviously, I don't really look like this, but it's not even touched up, you know. It's not even touched up. She did this just with lighting. And now I feel like for the rest of my life, I have to go around with my chin at this incredibly flattering angle. I've realized this is the angle. You know, when you open your camera the wrong way and you're sort of propped up on your bed and you go, oh my God, this is the angle for my chin. So I think not only will be in the real world, will I be taking the ring light into meetings and setting it up, I will also be like this in a big black hat. I may keep the heart. A friend of mine texted and went, no. And went, are you going to keep that heart? I went, yes. And he went, I don't know. There'll be some situations that it would be completely inappropriate. And I said, well, then, like somber occasions, I said, I'll do it in black, but I'm keeping the heart. I'm just saying. If you haven't read Stylist,
do the rest of the gig in this.
Yes. Okay. This, the whole thing. I'm a feminist, but seriously though, if you haven't read this, the theme is Choose Love, and all the articles are about a positive, uplifting and action-filled articles about Choose Love and refugees and how we can help and how we ourselves could be displaced and how we want to be part of the action for justice and, in the meantime, love. So please pick up a copy. You can download it on an app for 99p or you can pick up a copy. Sindhu, do you have any more I'm a Feminist buts?
Yes, I do. I'm a feminist, but when a friend of mine had her boobs done, which I was so, I'm too much of a hypochondriac to do it. And when she did it, I was so jealous that she'd had the guts to do it, that instead of telling her that she just looked so hot, I asked her if she was worried about silicone poisoning. It was not nice. I know. But,
I mean, it's a valid
she's
question.
Fine. She's fine. This bloody light keeps going up, but she's fine.
It's fine. You look, I'm tempted to turn my light down because then it's
you
a
look amazing.
Situation.
No, you look amazing for the both of us. I'm just going to be in and out of the light, basically, literally, because this thing is misbehaving.
Well, my final I'm a Feminist but is I'm a Feminist but I'm kind of glad that International Women's Day is only a week because it's true. I don't know how men manage to have the rest of the whole year to themselves. It must be knackering. I'm exhausted. I mean, it's presumably on an average Wednesday, they have to get up, go to a brunch, describe how difficult it is to be a man to other men who all agree. And then they have to go to a lunch and then they have to do a speech about being a man. Honestly, I don't want the whole rest of the year. I love International Women's Day week. I want it to be a month, but frankly, no longer. It's a busy old time.
If that is your wish, I can guarantee most men in the world are working to make your wish come true.
Hey!
So you will only have one day. Yeah, exactly.
They're counting it down.
Eggs.
From a variety of bedrooms and kitchens via Zoom, the Spontaneity Shop presents The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Sindhu Vee, and our very special guests Maria Bamford, Alison Bechdel, and more, talking about 1 year in lockdown for feminism.
Hello, and welcome to the Guilty Feminist International Women's Day Week Extravaganza! Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have we got a show for you? But before I tell you more about our exciting show, let me please welcome to the screen your favourite co-pilot and mine at Sindhu Vee. Hello.
Hello.
And welcome, Sindhu Vee, this International Women's Day. Sindhu, how are you this International Women's Day week? Are you feeling the Women's Day vibes?
I'm feeling very womanly. I'm feeling very international. And
I mean, you are international. You're one of the most international people I know.
Exactly.
Indian, lived in America, Danish husband, live in Britain.
Yes. What else do you need?
I mean,
hello.
It's why we chose you.
And my kids are English, even though I keep saying, please don't integrate so much. They're quite integrated. They're completely English.
You know, children will do that. They're more interested in their peers than their parents.
And they're certainly not interested in listening to me about being not integrated. Anyways, I'm so excited to be here.
I mean, homeschooling. I mean, I think everyone set their own curriculum for homeschooling. I can just imagine yours. 9 a.m., not integrating. 10 a.m. maths.
Well,
basically.
Sort of. Although my it's only my youngest I had to worry about. And with her, I'd be like, okay, you've had breakfast. And then she would just leave. I'd be like, bye. And then she'd show up at 10:30. I'd give her a snack. And at 3, she'd show up again. I'd be like, how was school? She'd say, fine. I'd say, have you done your homework? She'd say, fine. Like, that's it. No more questions. I don't want to know. I mean, online was too much.
Shapi Kosandi said to me, if my daughter wants to be a lawyer, she can be a lawyer 1 year later. I think that's a great philosophy. Sindhu Vee, you are going to be back with us a little later to interview our guests. So for now, thank you very much, Sindhu Vee.
I delivered the following piece before the Sarah Everard vigil. I considered taking it out, but people who were there on the night said there was some material in it I really should leave in. Thank you.
So before I cut to our first segment where we sat down with Choose Love and stylist, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Sarah Everard and also a woman called Benelyn Burke, who is a woman of colour who also this week went missing, presumed dead, and a man has been arrested. I just want to say something about this because it's hanging between us. And there's a proposed vigil, which the government are trying to stop on the grounds of COVID, but it's outdoors. So please keep in the loop for that if you would like to attend, either online or in person, socially distanced, in masks, far apart from each other. I just want to say this. There's been a lot of action online today about it. And the response from the Guilty Feminist and from me is firstly this. Our heart goes so far out and all the way back in again and around to Sarah's family and Benelyn's family and other victims of this. Happens all the time, and we know when it's women of colour, it's often much less reported on. This is not an isolated incident. And I know people who knew Sarah. She used to be an actress. She was in the industry, and I just want to say we hear you, we see you, we feel you. And to all the people on Twitter who are saying things like she shouldn't have been walking home alone, she shouldn't have had headphones in, can I say this? Are you asking for a world or even this country to pass legislation where unaccompanied, unchaperoned women are not allowed out after dark alone? Is that what you're saying? Because if you're not saying that, what you're saying is this individual woman shouldn't have been walking alone. But if this individual woman doesn't walk alone at night, that doesn't mean there's one fewer homicides. That means another woman is murdered. Maybe a woman who works night shifts and can't afford a taxi. Or a woman who's out looking for her taxi. Or it's the taxi driver. Or in this case, apparently it could be a police officer who maybe said to her, oh, we've had suspicious men walking around here, or we've had a report, I'll give you a lift home, here's my badge. We don't know what happened. But it could be a woman walking to her car, walking from her car where she's parked it on the street to her front door. It could be in the daytime. It could be a man who knows her and has a key to her property or knows how to get in to her property in some way or another, or who breaks in. The problem is not what women do. 96% of homicides are committed by men. And most of the victims are actually male. What this means is that if men stopped killing, killing would stop. So our problem is not where women walk, how they're dressed, whether they've got headphones in. All women are vigilant. We all know it could happen. We all walk with one eye over our shoulder. We're all hyper aware. If that worked, this wouldn't still be happening. As a father of daughters, as a husband of a wife, if it worked that men who had daughters were not violent, were not sexual predators, the history of the world would be very different, because do you know what? The human race is a long line of fathers of daughters. That's how the human race works. A man having daughters doesn't mean anything, or the history of the world would be very different. The problem is in our culture. The problem is men being coded by the world, by the media, by the stories we watch, by the sheer number of stories written by men, for men, about men, asking us to empathize with men, asking us to empathize with serial killers. It's in the culture. It's in the jokes. It's in the jokes that go unchecked by other men who wouldn't hurt anyone. Most men will never kill anyone, obviously. But many men contribute to this culture. And that's what feminism is here to change. The patriarchy is a fight for the status quo. Feminism is a fight for change. And in this spirit, a fight for change, we now go to two of my favorite women. Lisa Smosarski from Stylist, who partnered with us for this incredible edition of Stylist magazine, focusing on Choose Love, run by the incredible Josie Naughton. Over to Lisa and Josie. Hello, and welcome. It's Lisa from Stylist and Josie from Choose Love. Woo!
Hello!
Hello to you both. Hello, both wonderful women that you are. So firstly, Lisa from Stylist, you have been an absolute star. You're our brand partner for this event. And yes. I'm a feminist, but you are the person who has fulfilled my lifelong romantic comedy lead ambition to become the editor of a magazine.
Woohoo!
That's right.
Considering your rom-com fairy godmother, yeah.
That is exactly what you are. Next week, I hope that somebody's going to let me run a cupcake shop.
You're wishing.
They are the options. I think it's turned out very well, if I do say so myself. To be honest, with the careful steering, guiding hand of you and Tom Gormer at Stylist.
Yeah, to be fair, you've been an excellent editor. So I'm going to say it's all back to you. It's completely your vision. This is your issue, isn't it? And Tom has been a very good pair of hands, I believe, steering you along the way. But it's an incredible issue. And we'd love to hand over the reins to people who fulfill our values. So this is a dream come true for us, really, to work with you and Guilty Feminist.
And on the front cover, those who've seen it will know, otherwise you can look it up online. I'm in a black hat and I'm looking up and I've got a heart around my eye and makeup. And that is because the theme is Choose Love, Josie Naughton. The theme is you and everything you do. So I'm delighted to bring you two wonderful women together.
It's such an absolute pleasure. I mean, we're fans of both Choose Love and of you, Deb. So it's the perfect combination for us. And I think, obviously, we're tied it into International Women's Day, as this is your specialty. The theme being Choose to Challenge. And we thought, what better way to link it all together than to choose love when you're choosing to challenge?
I just wanted to say thank you so much to Deborah and to Stylist. I can't tell you how grateful we are as an organisation and so honoured to be part of this iconic issue. But yeah, thank you to the Guilty Feminist community who are supporting us and enabling us to be working currently in 15 countries. We're supporting 150 different organisations who are on the front line supporting displaced communities. They are just the most incredible value-led organisations who share the same values as Stylist and as a Guilty Feminist community. Right now, I'm not going to lie, it's a really pretty hard time for the communities that we work with. It's a year into the pandemic now. The virus has been really breaking out in a lot of the contexts that we work. The funding that's available for aid and for development has really decreased over the last year. So a lot of services have had to close down, which means that the funding that we have is even more important. People rely on if you're living in a camp, you rely on a community centre, and the community centres have all had to close. Obviously, people have tried to take them online. If they're not able to go to community centres, they don't have access to the internet. So we're doing a lot of buying food vouchers, a lot of supporting people to have digital equipment, to have credit for being able to go on the internet. So it's a lot of really the very most basic things that I think a lot of us kind of take for granted.
Lisa, what about Choose Love inspires you? I mean, you're someone with, this major magazine, and there's so many different amazing causes that you could have focused on for International Women's Day and throughout the year. You've only got so many issues. What is it about Choose Love that inspires you?
I've just been such a huge fan of the work that you have created, Josie, since you launched, because I think what's particularly interesting about Choose Love is how individuals can donate by buying items and knowing that it reaches the people on the ground. And I think that's a big difference, the transparency of what you can do. Deb, you've been an amazing champion of the charity. And I think when we spoke and we were talking about your issue and your takeover, you told me the most incredible stories of people that you had met while you were in the camp and some of the injustices that they were still facing today, court cases that were still going through, of people who had just tried to help. And I just thought, God, this is just such an amazing opportunity to use International Women's Day to spotlight these injustices that are happening now that we're not hearing enough about.
The other story that I felt was such a stylist piece, and it's something I really wanted to bring home, was looking at the beauty section, because I think we think of beauty as frivolous, and the whole idea of styling oneself, you think, it's I'm a feminist, but I've put my outfit together, and actually I think what's brilliant about the article that's in this issue of Stylist is looking at the ways in which beauty individualizes and humanizes you. That was, in fact, one of the first things that happened when I walked into the Moria camp. I went to the Women's Centre and someone said, would you like me to thread your eyebrows? And I thought, wow, I'm a feminist, but they clearly need a tidy.
And I think it's amazing. So many of the projects that we support are run by the community themselves. And I have to say, as is always the case, it's like the women who are usually running the organizations, and they do the most incredible work. They're the most resilient, inspirational people that I've ever met. And we see, the vocational skills being taught. We see amazing hairdressing courses happening. We see amazing dancing, yoga. There's amazing beauty days. And I've had my eyebrows done by someone before, and she was telling me her story, and I couldn't even imagine if the same situation had happened to me, that I would have had the bravery that she had to cross borders to bring her children for a better life and keep them safe.
I just add on that, Debbie, obviously I've got a great roundup in your issue of things that you can buy to help refugees. So the stylist at the front is the takeover. So if you want ideas, Deb has got a lot in her issue, and you can get that digitally or in print. You'll be able to pick that up as well.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for allowing me to do this stylist takeover. It was such an honour and a joy. I can't wait to do it again if I'm ever allowed. And thank you for your compassion in partnering with Choose Love, because it's going to make an enormous difference.
Well, thank you. Pleasure is absolutely all mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Lisa and Josie. Now, I've always said that International Women's Day is like feminist Christmas. And what would Christmas be here in the United Kingdom without the Queen's speech? Here, with her Queen's speech, is our very own woke queen, Sophie Duker. God save the me. Hello, everybody. It is I, young Whoopi Goldberg and comedy queen Sophie Duker. And tonight, I have been given the honourable task of addressing all the guilty feminists. That's right, all you gorgeous humans across the globe, because we are a broad and sexy
church. I'm speaking to my girls, my gays, my theys, my single ladies, my single mothers, my sensitive brothers, my rad dads, because hashtag not all men. Although, you know, some. The day has come. The hour is here. It is Feminist Christmas. And what have you done? No, don't try and avoid eye contact. I am a pre-recording and I will maintain. I see you stressing about the unimportant stuff, like Mary Wollstonecraft's tiny tits, or the rise and fall of Kim and Kanye, or that Friends of Glossier code that was gone too soon. This is Feminist Christmas. And at Feminist Christmas, you tell the truth. And the truth is, we could do so much better. Now, I get it. I know this entire year has been reheated dog shit. We've lost work, loved ones, the will to live. I mean, there wasn't even a silver lining when Trump caught COVID. At that point, some of us thought that the virus was an ally. But no, it seems that much unlike the fetid ex-pres, coronavirus doesn't discriminate. So if you've needed to take some or all of this year off, that's fine. Maybe you've decided to stop showering, wank constantly, cry loads. You do you. We are literally living through a global panna cotta. Take rest. But once you've rested, and when you're ready, all of us, we need to fucking fight. I don't care if this makes me sound like a whiny, worthy little wanker, but we need to do better. Screw shag, marry, kill. We need to free Britney, fire Jeff Bezos, fucking protect Meghan Markle, jail Prince Andrew, defund the police. Cis people need to speak up more about trans rights. Fat phobia needs to be binned. We all need to help make fetch happen. Fetch is gonna happen. Go get vaccinated and then go get angry. I mean, who run the world? They're still the same cunts. And it's 2021. I'm over it. So go do better, however you can. Do it for justice. Do it for equality. And if you can't, do it for yourself. Do it for Deborah Frances-White. I am your unelected queen, apparently. And I believe in you. I believe in us. We can do it.
This is a content warning for some of the material we discussed with our incredible guests. We talked about mental health and suicide is mentioned more than once. If you're not feeling that today, you can skip forward 45 minutes, although the interview is very warm and healing and not graphic. Sindhu Vee makes mention of how mental health is sometimes seen and how some people's mental health conditions are discussed in India using colloquial language, but she herself is not endorsing those views. And now to our interview.
Now, this is the part of the show, Sindhu Vee, when I say, this is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and our hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. And Sindhu Vee and I are here talking about the weirdest year for women. From last International Women's Day to this International Women's Day, what a year. We played the Royal Festival Hall last year. Never would we have thought that this year we would be here on Zoom. So, to join us to talk about this and many other things, my God, have we got some exciting guests. Our first guest today was described as the funniest woman in the world by Judd Apatow. But I think she might be the funniest person in the world. Thank you, Judd Apatow. Thank you. And she was the first woman to have 2 half-hour Comedy Central specials, speaking more to the misogyny of Comedy Central than the brilliance of this comedian. She is also a mental health advocate and star of her own Netflix series, Lady Dynamite. Please welcome the incredible Maria Bamford!
Oh, God.
Hello, Maria.
Yes. Hi.
We're so excited to have you. We've never had you on the show before. And so the silver lining of lockdown is we can beam you in from the United States of America.
That is the beauty of this total isolation. Yeah, and breakdown of society. It is great. It's
It really is. And listen, our other guest, I assumed you guys would know each other, go for cocktails, back rubs, plait each other's hair. But in the green room, you both, had a fangirl moment for each other because you'd never met, which I can't believe Sindhu Vee and I here at the Guilty Feminist are getting to introduce you. This is so exciting. So I need to say that Maria Bamford is joined by a writer and cartoonist best known for the comic strip Dykes to Watch Out For, which introduced the world to the test that bears her name, sometimes known as the Bechdel test, sometimes known as the Bechdel-Wallace test, that all of our listeners will know because one of my first ever I'm a Feminist buts was I'm a Feminist but some days even my life doesn't pass the Bechdel test. She has also created 2 graphic memoirs, Fun Home and Are You My Mother? And a third now that I've been sent this secret early copy of that's not even bound yet properly, The Secret to Superhuman Strength. And everyone's very jealous I have this and I've refrained from showing anyone. And I deserve a medal. She has received a MacArthur Fellowship, an Eisner Award and an Inkpot Award, among many others. Please put your hands together and make incredible woohooing noises in the chat for the wonderful Alison Bechdel! Woo! Hello!
Hi. I'm so happy to be here.
Alison, today, meeting you, I feel for the first time my life really does pass the Bechdel test.
I'm so glad, Deborah. Maria, I love your glasses.
Huh?
I love your glasses. What is embedded in them?
Well, there's a butterfly and little jewels. My friends own an eyeglass shop, 2 sisters. It's called Society of the Spectacle. And they give me deals.
Oh, my God.
Actually, Sindhu, I feel if you reached down and got some reading glasses, if you have some, we'd be the glasses. We're the girl band. Oh, my God. This is the picture.
I have all kinds of glasses, actually, now that you mention it. These are the glasses of the first feminist I ever met, my mother. So when I put them on, damn this light. Anyway, when I put them on, I can't see anything. Yeah, I can't see anything, but I do remember her wearing them all the time and then saying, look at my glasses, look at my glasses. It's because I'm a very educated lady. So I said, you don't have to say that now. You don't have to say that. We get it. Just wear the glasses.
It's true. They do make you look cleverer. The 4-squared Brady Bunch cleverness of this is really exciting me in ways that it should not. Yes. Alison Bechdel, do you have an I'm a Feminist but?
I do. I'm a feminist, but even though that Bechdel test is perhaps my biggest claim to fame, and I'm just going to spell out what the Bechdel test is in case anyone doesn't know it. It is a test to gauge how well a movie represents its women characters as full 3-dimensional humans. A movie must have 2 women in it who talk to each other about something besides a man. So in spite of this thing being attached to my name, I have to confess that my personal favorite movie of all time is Groundhog Day, which passes none of those criteria.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry to tell you
this. What a scoop. This is a scoop.
It's a scoop. I was going to say it's a revelation on the Guilty Feminist on International Women's Day. And all you people out there, do with that what you will. There you go. But can I ask, in that movie, are there 2 women talking and they're talking, but it's about a man? Or are there just no women talking to each other at all?
There's no women talking. I don't think there's even 2 women in it and they certainly aren't talking to each other.
Now, they might be because there's a waitress who is named. Because she's got to have a name. She can't just be hot waitress or mom one. So I think possibly there is, but I fear that the waitress might not talk to Andie MacDowell.
No, I think the waitress is just talking to Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Or the other guy.
It's
a spectacular fail. Don't even try. I can't explain my affection for it.
But love knows no rules. When you love a movie, you love a movie. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
I have another, I'm a feminist, but I really wish I had a ring light like you guys.
Oh, that's right.
Attainable goal, Alison.
Attainable goal.
My God. Have you been on the local buynothing.com? Someone will be trying to give one away. There's so many.
All sold out last I checked.
Alison, I'm sending you one. The Guilty Feminist is going to send you one as a gift after this. If you tell us where to send it, don't tell us live.
All right.
And I'm going to send you one because I want to be able to say, oh yeah, I just sent Alison Bechdel a ring. I'm a feminist, but I'm sending it to you not because I'm being generous, because I just want to throw into a conversation. Oh yeah, this ring light. I just sent my friend Alison one of these.
Alison Bechdel.
Yeah, Bechdel. Yeah, you know Alison Bechdel. And they'll be like, you're friends? And I'll be like, sure. Like, we feminists know each other. We meet at the meetings. Obviously. Maria Bamford, do you have an I'm a feminist but?
Well, I'm so concerned that this will be triggering to people. But I think you need to risk it. When I was 9 or 10 years old, I watched a lot of television and I didn't understand sex work or anyways, I am a feminist, but I thought I wanted to be a prostitute because they were always going out to eat and having a nice time in a nice dress. And not that isn't happening, because it is, and I wasn't wrong. But I just thought that was interesting. That was like something that I thought I would like to get into that. Unfortunately, that has not been made available to me, or nobody's ever asked me for a picture of my feet, or They
will now. They're sliding to your DMs now that you've said that. You've put it out there. You've asked for it. I have a really good friend in Australia who's a sex worker who absolutely loves it. It was what she wanted to do. Similar thing as a friend of hers was doing it. She just loves working with her clients, a lot of whom are people who, that's their closeness and intimacy. And she is always going out to eat. She's very, very glamorous and a glorious feminist and a glorious woman. So I think you were right. I don't think that's I don't think that's a but. I think that's an I'm a feminist and.
And I mean, talking about it being kind of complicated and perhaps triggering, I am a little triggered, and I'll tell you why, Maria, because when I was 7 or 8 years old, I went to my mother and I said, Mommy, I think when I grew up, I want to be an actress. Now, bear in mind, my mother was raised in the Bollywood culture of acting. So I said, Mommy, I think I want to be an actress. And she said, actress? Why don't you go straight to prostitute? And I was like, what? And so then I went to my dad and I was like, when I grow up, I want to be a prostitute. I thought, well, I guess that's what it is. And my dad was like, I need to talk to your mother. I don't know, because he knew that it had come from her. So he went to her and she said, because Bollywood was a terrible place. But I just want to say, when you said that thing about 9 years old and sex work, I'm like, oh, I've been in a situation with those things in the same space and been like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. But,
well, and I wonder if people who do sex work, if they have that experience as young people, because then when I found out what it was, I think I'm a little too shy for that. And
I imagine there's every single experience in sex work from every spectrum of experience. And we should get more sex workers on. We have had sex workers on the program, but we should have more to talk about it and to speak from their experience.
I also weirdly wanted to be a nun. And I think it's because of the uniform, the idea that I could be wearing a dress or just a uniform, it's just like the costumery of both those positions seemed very good.
I wanted to be a nun for a brief time too, but only because of the sound of music.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I wanted to be a nun because I went to a convent. I did.
I'm a feminist, but now I felt left out that I didn't want to be a nun.
Sorry. No, but just so you know, I was in a convent and it was fine, except it was Sister Agnes who made me not want to be a nun because she was very angry and she had a mole and it had one hair. And the thing is, she would shout at you and then the hair would get angry after. It was like a delay. It was so frightening. It'd be like, and Sister Agnes would come to you and say, you did not do your homework. You're terrible. And blah, blah, and said, Hail Mary and this, that. And then when she was done, the hair would go. And you'd be like, oh. And that's what made me not want to be a nun. I thought, I can't do that. It was scary.
It's a great character for a children's book, though. I have to say that.
I felt left out because I never wanted to be a sex worker. So each of us are left out of one of these scenarios.
Certainly.
Yeah. I understand. So to ask you two Americans a question, your country's had a lot of news lately, hasn't it? And we're obsessed with your politics, just so you know. We need to be, because who runs your country changes the world. We had the head of the CEO of the Climate Council on, and she said if Trump gets another term, that's the end of the world because of there's no going back climate change wise. So I don't mean to put pressure on you and say who you vote for and who your fellow Americans vote for really does. It can be the end of the world for us. So that's why we're so obsessed. But how do you feel now? We've had this exceptional year in every conceivable way, but one of the hopeful things that have come out of it, other than hot and cold running vaccines now, is Biden-Harris. Do you feel hopeful, or does that feel like a plaster over Niagara Falls to you? Like, how does it feel? Maria, you look like you have something to say, bubbling out of you.
I mean, I always have something to say now that I've gotten older, and I just sort of dribble words randomly in every direction. But I think it is a bit of a Band-Aid because things are so awful. And I'm definitely a person of privilege, so I'm not the person to be speaking on these issues but it is radical, so unfair in our society, and a lot of things that are supposed to be, American values, have really shown themselves never to be true on some level. So it's a bit worrisome, but I am grateful. I did vote for Biden-Harris, and I am, I always have hope, but that's maybe because of my caffeine intake and a number of antipsychotics I'm currently on.
I love that image of a plaster over Niagara Falls. I think that's very evocative.
I mean, I ad-libbed it especially for you, so I feel very warm, and please one day put it in a graphic novel, and then I'll tell people.
I think that's accurate. I feel very, of course, relieved that Biden got elected, but also very, very anxious about what still lies ahead. Some kind of major change has to happen. And I don't know whether we're all up for it. I hope we can do it, but I
mean, we're definitely not all up for it, but 50% is up for it.
Right.
And it's which 50% is going to win, and it keeps doing that all the time. But I worry that our 50% isn't pushing hard enough or for the right things all the time.
This perpetual problem with the forces of good, which is that, we're trying to be inclusive and polite and caring, and the other side doesn't care about that stuff. So
no.
They have an edge.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the loss of the middle is about one side saying, let's have a middle. Why don't we come and talk? And the other side being like, get out. Yeah. It's that you can't have a middle if that's going on. But I just think Trump's being there did something so that lots of stuff that was under the surface has now just come out, and you can't put it back in the box. Is that a fair way of thinking about it?
I agree. Yeah.
Well, and definitely encourage people through modeling, of like what a human being is capable of. Just, he's doing it, so that means I can. And that's
it emboldens.
Yeah.
Maria, what's your dream for feminism now? What would it look like if you were the feminist genie and you could grant some wishes? What would it look like? What kind of world would you paint? Or what would you go for first?
Well, I assume it would be the same things that, just being seen as a human being, the same that people with different abilities have, different race, ethnicities, the genders. You just want to be seen as a human being, and not acknowledge what the differences might be, but to have the same opportunities. And clearly that I don't know how to change that. I did a study with this guy at the University of Chicago just to do comedy clubs, just because through working in them, I realized that I'm one of only, maybe 3 comedians a year who are booked at some comedy, who are women. And then usually they're white. And it turned out, the numbers were exactly what we thought they would be. It's only maybe think it was like 10 or 11% were women, and then it's much smaller for women of color, and then non-existent for a certain identification. So it was like, yeah, I don't know what to do. Because we put the information out there and then it's just like, oh, yeah, we knew that. And then
yeah. How do we start burning stuff to the ground? Because I wonder, and I don't know, what do you think about this, Alison? Because I've just lately been feeling like the suffragettes in this country, I don't exactly know the history in America, but in this country, there were like 5 or 6 decades where they tried to get the vote because there was no legislation for women. There was no laws for women, no laws protecting women. So they had to get the vote to get anything at all. And their babies could be taken away from them. They could be locked in an asylum. Like anything could happen to them. So it was like 5 decades, verging on 6 decades, they filled out the paperwork and did what the patriarchy said. Like, oh, but if you just make friends with these MPs and you have some coffee mornings and but you got to come, well, you got to present and you got to try and get a private members bill through. And they tied them up in busy work for 5 or 6 decades. Because if they just go, you're never getting it, they'll just start storming the Bastille, right? So they don't do that. They tell you, keep filling out the forms. And eventually they just went, we filled out the forms for like 55 years. Now we're just going to start blowing shit up. And, that worked.
I remember that as a child, my first exposure to the suffrage movement was Upstairs, Downstairs, the scene where Rose, the maid, goes to a protest and gets put in jail and force-fed oatmeal. Oh, yeah. That's when I became a feminist. I think I was 10.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. So it was British suffragettes that made you a feminist.
Yes. Masterpiece theater.
Wow.
Yeah. I forget what the question was.
Oh, it's just like, what's your fantasy future? If you were the feminist genie and you could wave a magic wand, what would you do?
I would want the whole world to be like a women's music festival, except we'd have to have men, of course. But otherwise, it would be just like a women's music festival. It would be like a collective run worm composting farm, and everyone would just be like living in harmony with nature and each other.
Wait a minute.
That's great.
I've been to a women's music festival, and there's often some arguments about what's vegan. Like I lived in emotional group meetings about decisions made. So just I know it's not all.
In this genie nirvana, though, in feminist genie nirvana, there's no. Nirvana's probably not not an appropriate use of that word. But in this feminist fantasy future, there aren't those arguments. Alison's painting a picture. I exactly hear what you say. There's going to be arguments around the drum circle. You're right, Maria. You're not wrong. But Alison's probably going to wave her wand again. I don't know, and make those arguments go away.
No, it's okay to have healthy differences. We can allow for that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean,
Maria's not coming. I'm just
no. Maria's going to be.
I'd like to come. I can't. I can't stand conflict, which is, that's part of my problem. Humanity.
I know.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
That actually brings me to the next thing I'd like to talk about, because I want you guys to talk to each other, because here's the thing. I've been watching your show, What's Your Ailment, where you talk to comedians about mental health. And also I've read The Secret to Superhuman Strength, Alison Bechdel's new book. And both of those really sit in a space around mental health, the psyches, how in your head you can be, and how much you try and invent and express yourself through your physical body, and kind of how inadequate it is. So I would love to hear you two talk to each other, and Sindhu as well, about mental health and what you've learned, I guess, from all the comedians you've had on What's Your Ailment. Maria, have you learned anything? And Alison, like what you've learned from diving deep in your graphic novels into your exposing so much vulnerability in yourself, and how much that really affects us as women, especially in this lockdown year.
You go first, Alison.
Oh, I was just going to say, you go first, Maria.
You know what? I'll go first.
Nice.
Great.
I'll go first just to get everything going. But also I just have a little bit to say, which is that I grew up in India where mental health is not discussed. So by which I mean I had an uncle who was crazy and he lived at home. And every time we went to visit, my aunt was like, don't go in the room, uncle, he might kill you. And we were like, oh, okay. And he would just be in his room and he would just slam doors. He was nuts, but they just kept him home because there was nowhere to put him. So that's one kind of mental health. You just grew up with people, your family, someone's crazy, just put them in a room, don't visit at the wrong time. But women having mental health issues was never discussed, because then you were broken. You were damaged. You were, and it was, my mother became a therapist when I was a teenager. She went to America and trained in drug and alcohol therapy and came back and started a rehab in Delhi and had addicts come out of detox and then do their therapy at home. So I remember coming home from college one day, and I was in high school, and my mother said, and there were 8 people sitting in the garden with her, and she said, "This is my group. I'm going for a nap. Go and sit with them, and don't sit next to the boy with a mustache. He'll bite you. He's very angry. He's had a lot of heroin in his life." I was like, "Well, what's heroin?" I went and sat in this group, and they were like, "Oh, are you Mrs. Vee's daughter?" And I was like, "Yes." And they were like, "We're addicts, and no one in India will talk about it." I didn't know what an addict was. But I was introduced to the notion of mental health in a very extreme way. And I think what happens, and what I've learned as a woman with children and growing up, is that a lot of, and tell me what you think of this, a lot of mental health stuff that women have is so subtle that we don't think we are allowed to talk about it. It's not that extreme stuff. If you're an addict, and you have an addiction and that's playing out, or if you're nuts, so you're breaking a wall, that's mental. But when you have so much of mental health distress that I've felt in my life has been so subtle that I haven't felt I was justified in saying anything. It's like, oh, I'm not coping. And I think if there was, it's really nice to read and hear from people who say, you have to take it seriously. It's okay. You are worth enough to say that thing doesn't feel right. Does that make any sense?
Yes. Well, and I don't know, like even a lot of jokes about women from a man's perspective are like, she's psycho, or crazy, or, have any feelings yet. So that's definitely a thing that can be said about women, and nobody wants to feel like they're, a pariah or untrustworthy emotionally. My mom also trained to be a therapist when I was in college, so she went back. And the great thing about, or the one thing I felt like I've been able to do as a woman, is just to talk about my own experience. Or that's been the empowering thing, is to talk about it publicly with an art form that I enjoy, comedy. And that's one thing that I can do that doesn't involve getting, a bunch of people on board. I don't know. I definitely preach to the choir. I'm definitely talking to a bunch of people who already agree with me many times. So
the one thing I love about the show is how funny it is and how much you sit and laugh with comedians as you talk about things like depression. And I loved that episode with Rachel Bloom where you said to her that depression is anger turned inwards, and because men are coded almost only, the only emotion that it's acceptable for them to express is anger if you're looking at real binary patriarchal structures, but we are told you're not allowed to be angry, so we can turn it in on ourselves and then we get depressed.
My husband and I, we share something in common. Not only are we both a little bipolar, or bipolar too, but we both have a habit that we both got at around the age of 9 or 10, which is suicidal ideation. It's a real clock eater. And one thing that he does when he thinks about that is he would hurt himself, like act out physically, throw something, destroy something, or, hit himself in the head or something. Whereas I would go inward and weep uncontrollably and Google ways to kill myself online. It's more inward. So, I think that, and also it was okay for him to be angry. Whereas women in the Midwest, or at least Minnesota, 1980s, I am not comfortable saying that I'm angry about anything, though I am angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nope.
Yeah. Are you angry, Alison?
I didn't want to be a sex worker as a child, but I did want to be a psychiatrist. I went through a phase when people asked me what I wanted to do, I would say I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I think mostly because they would laugh when I said that. But I really was fascinated with this profession of people who would just sit and listen and try to figure other people out. That thrilled me as a child because I so desperately wished someone would do that for me. I grew up in this quite dysfunctional family. all kinds of things happening around me that I didn't know were happening until much, much later. I'm a huge advocate of therapy. It was doing therapy as an adult that completely saved my life. I just terminated after, I think I've spent a total of 30 years in therapy.
Wow.
But you've terminated therapy? That's it? You're like, I'm done with therapy?
Well, actually, I was just having this feeling yesterday, like, God, I haven't talked to my therapist in a long time. So I don't know.
I mean, I feel like it's always there. It's a possibility. You know what I mean? Like I used to go every week for years. And then I was like, oh, I'm fine now. And then sort of just went through my life and then finally got to a point where like, I was like, oh, that wasn't fine. And then turned back around. And then I started doing therapy. I think the idea that you do therapy because you're not okay is a mistake. I've been telling my kids since they were 7, you need to go to therapy. I'm saving up for you. And they're like, what are you talking about? I think it's the best way to get to know yourself, but you need to have the right therapist at the right time.
And in the US, it is so difficult to get mental health care or health care at all. Yeah. So I always like try to tell people, call your local pizza parlor. Like just see if you can get somebody on the phone. Somebody might have read something and might be pleasant to you. I've called the operator and said, hey, I want to kill myself. They've said, oh, I love you. You know, like just get it done. Like you don't have to psychiatrist or, you know, just get help anywhere. Because the so high I mean, the suicide hotlines, you wait 45 minutes right now.
Oh my God. Oh, that's awful. I've just started therapy, you guys. I've just started it. All my life. I had 2 periods of 6 weeks, which each for 2 specific incidents, both of which were terrible. They just sat and stared at me. And I felt judged. I felt like I was paying to be judged. And then during lockdown, I'm on a general self-help thing because I've never been in the same place. Honestly, I do things in lockdown for variety because I never leave the house. I'm like, well, now I'll have a singing lesson. Now I'll have, I try and do these different things. So I thought it's a good time to figure some stuff out. And I just have found a new therapist who I think is right for me. And she's like seeing like really interesting patterns. And I always like stuff around I was adopted, which I didn't really think it affected me that much. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, which I know did affect me a lot. Like one really interesting thing that I never understood before is I was alone in the hospital for the first 10 days outside the womb. So the first thing I learned outside the womb was you're on your own. A nurse will come and feed you. If you don't drink all the milk when she gives it to you, it's not coming back. So drink all the milk. Like I learned that. And I've been drinking all the milk since. And then, when you leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, you're shunned, and it like replicated that first 10 days outside the womb where you're all on your own. And so like things like that I'd never seen before, I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. It's like a movie, but it's my life. And it's sort of like those patterns. It's so interesting. And also sometimes, kind of sad, but I highly recommend it.
But coming to see those things, coming to like see and understand those patterns frees you almost instantly. That's the beauty of therapy.
Yeah. I always think the things that I wished I had different that I think are important in the world, I try and put in my kids because I see them as little bees that are going to go out and pollinate stuff, because I think that's kind of one way I can, not that they take everything I say. I mean, they hardly listen to anything I say. They're just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I've got 2 teenagers. They're barely like, are you talking? Because that's literally wasting my time. They're like, they don't say it to me. Because I'm Indian, they know what'll happen. They think it. I can see it in their eyes because they're English. That's the problem with my kids. They're so English. But one of the things I've been trying to put into them is this idea that when you don't feel stable or when you feel so sad or when you have terribly intrusive thoughts, there's no shame. Shame's the killer. Shame's the killer. That's the thing that makes kids go like this. And that's the thing that makes them go like this. And I'm like, there's no shame. Because in India, there's a lot of shame around mental health or depression. I mean, now it's better, but it's not that great. And so I want them to celebrate the fact that they were smart enough to think, I feel really fucked up. I'm like, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Yeah. Pick up the phone and that's good. If you feel like that and you can say it, excellent. Do you know what I mean?
Google any human experience on the internet. You'll find somebody who's written a book about it.
Exactly.
That's so true.
You've sat on your rabbit by accident, your beloved rabbit. Somebody's written a book about that.
Exactly. I mean, but I do temper it. I say, if you feel terrible and it's because of these math grades, then it's correct. You should feel like shit. You did not get an A in math. That's why you feel like shit. I'm sorry. I do temper it. I don't let them just get away with any old thing.
It's good to know. I was talking to Hannah Gadsby recently, and she said, who you'll both know from Nanette and may have met, she said to me, story holds our cure. Like, you're both storytellers, immensely brilliant storytellers and feminist storytellers. Because I sometimes think the reason we got Trump was that we've seen so many stories, we've empathized with so many white men, and they've all got a rosebud story, like of the reason they're like that. And like the fact that most films still now don't pass, I think only about half of the films now still pass the Bechdel test. How much work is that? Like, how much do you think story matters? How much do you think representation of story matters?
I think it matters a lot. And I think that's what's causing all of these upheavals we're living through, is finally people who aren't white men are telling their stories and are getting their stories seen as human stories. And there's a tremendous backlash against it,
It's great to see I just love looking on all the, Netflix, all the thing and different shows where it's like all these different world experiences being represented that have never been there before. And it's really exciting.
The missing piece, though, is we got to get all those white men to come watch these stories and understand that those stories are about them too, just like we watched Groundhog Day and know that it's also about us. That part hasn't happened yet.
But I feel like it's easier for us to look at those stories and say, oh yeah, I get, than the other way around. I feel a lot of men listen to stuff that women are talking about, or people that don't identify as men, and it doesn't have to be women that just identify as women, anyone who's non-binary. Men have a much harder time. I feel they're so much more afraid.
And misogyny works, it's worked out. It's like, why change? Why fix it if it's still working?
I think it's working for somebody. Tough. It's just what we've all been trained for, though. I think we're all trained. We've just watched so many stories through the same eyes. We're all trained to see this Joe Blogg's hero, this white guy, as a human being. So when you see a white man in a movie, you put his humanity first and his identity second. But if it's a black woman in a movie, it's, the white man will go, oh, that's a story about another. Because we just don't have enough movies about black women. So one black woman is an exception. And generally the movie's not about her anyway. She's a friend and she's there to support the lead character. And I think maybe that's where it sits. So maybe we need other tests. Also, Alison, I'd be wanting to tell you, I have my own test. It's if you listen to the woman in the movie or the woman in the TV show, would there be no story? Because I really noticed that the woman generally goes, don't go out there for one last job. Stay with me. We should go to Florida where there's no stories at all. If you stay inside, we won't even see a plot. And the man's like, no, I must go out to the story. And even like it's something like Modern Family, it's like the wife is going, don't bring a trampoline to a petting zoo because there'll be comedy. And the man's like, I shouldn't, but I'm gonna. And do you know what I mean? What is the name of that test? I feel like it's a good test. I want to see more movies where the woman suggests that we go on the adventure and the man goes, I'm not up for that.
Yeah, that's kind of like noticed that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is a very good one. That is
so the women are just stopping the story, in other words.
Yeah, like Skylar White in Breaking Bad. People's reason people hated Skylar on Breaking Bad is she kept saying, please don't cook crystal meth. We have a teenager and a baby, which was fairly reasonable of her, I feel. And people were like, she's trying to kill the story. And they really took it out on that actress. And the writers turned it and said, right, Skylar's going to get involved. She started doing stuff to kind of help the plot. And even then people were like, we just want to see Walt. But generally, I tell you, you watch a movie and most of the movies, the woman is saying, don't do that. Even in Groundhog Day, your favorite movie in the whole world, Alison, she's like, can you just come, do the news thing like a normal person and cooperate? And he's like, I have an adventure to be on. So he's the resistor.
I wonder if that is an expression of men's deep wish to just stay at home and do nothing. They don't really like going out and having adventures and having to solve problems all the time. I say, let them stay at home and do nothing.
I wish.
Enjoy it.
Honestly, I went to a convent. Trust me, there was only women. And everyone was doing something to further the story. Do you know what I'm saying? We were all getting into so much. We were only furthering the story. I think I like men. Hey, I like men. And for the record, love dick. Like men, love dick, no problem for me. But I just want to say, even if you just let men go to the side a little bit, we just take up more space. We do all the things that we think only men do. We just have to tell them, just move aside a little bit. Just a little bit. Make some space. That's like when my mother, she had 2 daughters. And then she said, I'm not going to have any more kids because if third child is a boy, he will take all the space. And she was right. She was right. She had 2, and for her in that generation to have 2 daughters and not have a son, everyone was like, you got to try. She was like, no, because he'll take up all the space. So I think if we just tell men, I was like, just move over, you guys. A little more space. And by the way, the genie, can I just say, I have to say what I would do if I was a genie. If I was a feminist genie, not that you asked, I'm going to butt right in there. I would take all industries. So just talk about economics. I would take all the industries, which is basically everything, all of capitalism, and I would make 70% of the power structure from top to bottom all women-led.
Yes.
And then I would sit back and I would watch the change.
Huh.
Women lead differently. Women cooperate differently. Women fight. Women can be bitches. Hey, I used to be an investment banker. I've seen women literally kill each other. But when you have all the power structure 70% filled with women, you see difference.
Wow. That is what a great genie thing. I'm going to take some questions from the audience. But first of all, I just wanted to ask Maria, do you have any questions for Alison that you've always wanted to ask Alison? Or Alison, do you have a question for Maria?
Oh my gosh. If you're anything like me, you just got to keep going. So I want you to hopefully not answer any of my questions and just keep making stuff because you make such beautiful things. And I don't want to butt into that process.
This isn't a question, Maria, but I so love how you just say exactly what is going on in the moment, exactly what you're worried about, exactly what you fear. And I wish I could always have my finger on the pulse like that. It's a great writing gift, you know? I was surprised to learn that you didn't write Lady Dynamite. Is that true? You weren't one of the writers? Because it seems so much like your voice.
No, that is the beautiful work of Pam Brady, the head writer and director of the show. She is fantastic. She's in the UK right now doing a project with Judd Apatow. I did not have the wherewithal to do that, and writing scripts is not my deepest joy. But yeah, I would just go there and drink LaCroix and eat Caesar salads, and I'd say, well, this happened. Yeah, LaCroix.
Can we just talk about LaCroix water for a moment?
So good.
I spent a brief period of my life in the Twin Cities where I discovered that amazing elixir. Everyone I knew, I was living there in the late 80s when I didn't know about recovery or sobriety, but all of a sudden I was in the middle of this recovery culture. And I'd go to parties and people were not drinking beer, but were drinking this clear liquid called LaCroix water. And it was amazing.
What is LaCroix water?
It's just sparkling water with different flavors.
Water.
Well, I'm from Minnesota, spent time in Minneapolis. I have been in 5 12-step support groups for about 30 years. So I love me some cult 12-step stuff. Number 1, it's free. Number 2, it's free. Number 3, they can't kick you out. And I love all those.
Yeah, I went to so many of those in America because my mother was training and she would just take me. And I went to NA, I went to AA. I would just sit there, be like, hi, I'm Sindhu. I'm nothing. I'm here with her.
We have to do a whole other episode on cults. We have to do it because I'm an experienced cultee.
Yes.
But Tom's just going to quickly give us a couple of questions from the audience because I know we've got to finish this segment up. Tom, you got anything for us?
Yeah, this is a question that anyone can answer. It's from Lara Phillips. Yep. What are your thoughts on combating girl boss feminism and the damage it can cause?
I think whatever you want to identify as, if you're down with that, like if you say, I like myself as a girl, then it's for the person. If you're calling somebody that, I think you might want to ask first.
So ask first. Can we have another question, please? Go to answer. Ask before you call someone a girl boss.
Question for Alison. Everyone wants to know what's in those drawers behind you, especially the big red ones.
Oh, that's an intrusive question.
Drawings.
Oh,
drawings.
Yes.
this is the good thing about Zoom, isn't it? We're seeing inside the graphic design brilliance.
It's a really big one.
Oh my God. This is so beautiful and special. This is from the new book.
Black and white. Yeah, that is from my book.
I recognize that from the book. That's amazing. Any other questions?
So from Arabella, how do you talk to women who are actively non-feminist? And again, anyone can take that.
Maria, do you ever talk to a woman who says, I'm not a feminist?
Yeah, you just like an active woman, a human being. Then don't tell her how much you're getting paid.
Alison, do you have a thought on how do you talk to a woman who says she's not a feminist?
I'm trying to envision that conversation. I feel like my mind would just stop as it just has. I would sort of go into a fugue state. Like, what? I would be no help in that situation.
Sindhu?
What about you, Deborah?
Oh, me. I would say I ask them questions about do they feel that men and women should be treated equally? Do you think the vote should be taken away from women? They'll say, no, of course I believe in that. And then I go, okay, well, then I'd rather you were a feminist, as you seem to be, and say you're not one, than say you are one and not be one. But I would also rather you say you are one and be one. And then we would have a conversation about that. But I think the best thing to do is ask questions because they probably are. They just don't know that they are. Any other questions?
What do you hope we are talking about on International Women's Day 2030?
How the patriarchy was before it toppled, before we fucked the patriarchy, those bad old days. Sentimental, retrospective feminism. That's what I hope. Sindhu?
In 2030, I hope we're talking about how excellent the technology is when we're all in a room doing International Women's Day.
Oh, yeah.
And
if we're on screens
together,
it's like we're holograms.
Because then we can have people from abroad, like we do this evening, and we can just be like, boom, and they're right
beamed
there,
into the theatre.
Yeah.
Maria, dreams for 2030?
Yes. I would like there to be world peace, but then also I would love to have the technology to have a brain ride in another person's brain. And so you could just see what it's like to be every single person on the earth for, as long or short a period you want. I know that's also called listening. That's the low tech. It's the low tech way of getting a brain ride, but I would love to have
That's the low tech. That's got to be a t-shirt or a mug. At least a tweet, Maria. The low tech way of getting a brain ride is listening. Alison, 2030, what are we talking about on International Women's Day?
I hope that we are talking about how the eco-feminists stopped global warming, and we're just so relieved about that. That's my hope.
What a great question, and what great answers for everybody. Thank you so much. Maria, is there anything you would like us to follow you on, watch, plug, anything you want to tell us about?
I am not a mental health professional in any way. I am not going to help you, but I am doing on April 15th a slumber party where you just, I'll do my stand-up an hour before bed, and then I'll go to bed, and we'll be together for 8 hours.
Amazing.
And then I'll breakfast, and it's if you can't afford it, you just email me at Aria May Amford Bay. That's my Pig Latin name at gmail.com. Otherwise, it's on Rush.
Are you going to keep your camera on while you're asleep?
Oh God, yes. And,
what's the date of this slumber party?
April 17th. It's going to be on rushtix.com, and all the money will go to the Downtown Women's Center in downtown Los Angeles, which is a great facility.
Amazing. April 17th, follow Maria Bamford on socials, and I'm sure you'll be able to find all the details there. Alison Bechdel, anything to plug?
I have this new book that you've been waving around, The Secret to Superhuman Strength. It will be out in May.
Buy it now. Can you pre-order it, gang? Pre-order it. You could also pre-order my new book, which is called 6 Conversations We're Scared to Have. But follow Alison and Maria. Alison and Maria, will you come back on The Guilty Feminist when we have a luxurious more amount of time? Because I could talk to you for hours.
Oh, that's so nice. Sure. Let's do it in Vermont where Alison.
Oh, that would be great. We could come and do a live in Vermont.
We'll go milk some cows.
I'm into it. I'm more than into it.
Isn't the Ben and Jerry's in Vermont?
Yes, it's quite near my house. We'll go there.
Can we go there as well? Then I'm coming.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Listen, it's been one of the great privileges of my life to have you on together and also to introduce you. I'll never forget this night. A big round of applause and woohoos in the chat for the incredible Maria Bamford. Woo!
Thank you.
And the wonderful Alison Bechdel. Woo!
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Guilty Feminists. This is Deborah. If you're very quick, there may still be tickets available for the recording we're doing tonight, Monday, the 19th of April. It will be recorded at King's Place, and while we can't have you there in the audience in person, you can watch the live stream and see all the bits that are too visual, too controversial, or just too funny to make it into the final podcast. And if 7:30 tonight doesn't work for you, you have 72 hours to watch the video. To get your ticket, go to kingsplace.co.uk. Now, like a lot of people, we are deeply concerned about the UK policing bill and what it means for all of us in this country. The part we're focusing on is the clamp down on protests, which will mean that the police can warn protesters that they're being noisy and annoying, which is kind of the definition of a protest, and then make arrests if protesters don't comply or don't hear. I mean, that's really the same thing as saying it will be illegal to protest about anything ever. We need to fight for our right to be noisy and annoying, or accept that we just have to take whatever legislation this government or any subsequent government decides to enact. That's why this is the most important part of this bill for us. If other parts pass, we need to be able to protest about those. You'll be hearing more about this as the bill gets closer to becoming law, but we're kicking off with a live stream emergency episode on Thursday the 29th of April, 7:30 p.m. UK time. I'll be joined by Femi Olawole, Juliet Stevenson, and other special guests, and we'll try and figure out what to do to preserve our right to be noisy and annoying. Now, we are starting a campaign. We've got ideas and we're going to start a campaign. So it would be great if you could be there, friends and family could be there. We are reaching across the political divide on this because anybody who wants their right to speak up needs to be concerned about this if they want to continue to live in a democracy. To get your ticket, go to momenthouse.com/guiltyfeminist. And use the promo code PROTEST in caps to get a discounted ticket if you're a frontline worker, NHS worker, student, teacher, or you're in receipt of benefits or experiencing financial hardship. Please join us to defend our right to be #noisy and annoying before it's too late. And finally, as lockdown lifts, it looks as if we are going to be able to record some new episodes in front of real live audiences again. Our first show back with a live but socially distanced audience is going to be Monday the 17th of May, once more at King's Place in London at 7:30 p.m. Get your tickets now by going to kingsplace.co.uk. All of these events and more can be found on our website, guiltyfeminist.com, or check out the links in our show notes. And now, back to the podcast.
One of the most impressive women to emerge from our time in lockdown was the Handforth Parish Council enforcer, Jackie Weaver. Did you see this viral video, Sindhu?
Yes.
It went viral in the UK. You might not have seen it if you're tuning in from abroad. So let's have a look at her in action. It's Jackie Weaver.
You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
She's just kicked him out. Just a minute. No, she's kicked him out. Don't. She's kicked him out. Don't.
This is a meeting called by two councillors.
Illegally?
They now elect a chairman.
No, they can't because the vice chair's here. I take charge. Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them.
And now we're joined by the actual real life Jackie Weaver. Big round of applause for Jackie Weaver, everybody. Jackie Weaver, what a coup to have you, Woman of the Year, on our International Women's Day week extravaganza. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Now, Jackie, you went viral because you seem to know how to handle men who were, frankly, bullying on that Zoom. They were being really aggressive. How did you manage to keep your cool and just say, okay, if you didn't want to behave that way, you're not going to be here anymore? And then you seem to stay the same. You didn't seem to get angry or upset. You just kept your cool. Please give us tips. How did you do it?
plenty of makeup, and also making sure that making sure you know what it is you're trying to achieve that night. And for me, that was about this meeting is going ahead. Right.
Now, you said to me that they'd already been on this call and done the same thing before.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, it was literally deja vu. I mean, half an hour before, they'd had a planning meeting, and it literally went exactly the same way.
So they just kept behaving that way, and you said, right, I'm going to throw you off the call. And that's why you said, I'll throw you off the call again. So can you tell us, what's the reception been like since you've had this notoriety?
Sorry, Deb. I mean, we're overrunning. We're already 10 minutes over. We're going to have to wrap this up now.
I'm sorry, but could we just hear from Dad, please?
You don't have the authority.
Women. Did you just get rid of Tom? Oh my God. Are we allowed? Do we have the authority to get rid of Tom? He is the producer. I'm not sure, Jackie, that we've got the authority to do that. I'm really not sure.
I've read the standing orders. I've read them and understood them. Between you and me, it's all in the eyebrows. And now, with a behind-the-scenes Bridgerton scoop, it's Alison Spittle and Nicola Coughlan.
So, welcome to Alison Spittle and Nicola Coughlan.
Hello.
Two of my favourite human beings, and here I am sandwiched between you. If you were here, I would grab one of your breasts each.
I would love this.
And not, I mean, just out of delight. I'm not coming on to you, although I'm open.
No,
it's more fine. Just out of like, I just want to, do you know what I mean?
I hold my own boobs when I'm comforting myself. It's very comforting. Thing. Oh, it's
it would be like that. It would be a comforting squeeze.
Amazing. Yeah, love that.
Now, in the meantime, Nicola, Alison and I, we're fans of the Bridgerton. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I think someone's mentioned it to me, yeah.
And we want Bridgerton goss. We want backstage, on-set Bridgerton goss.
Who smells the best? Out of all the...
I often get asked this, and I never really smelled anyone. Now I feel like I missed out on an experience. But people will say, what did reggae smell like? And I think I didn't really have many scenes with reggae, so it would have been doubly inappropriate had I not been a trainer to be like, can I have a quick whiff, just like a little, and then I'll go. Luke Newton smells quite good. He's the man I got closest to on set. But everybody was very well bathed. Nobody smelled bad.
Alison, do you have any Bridgerton I'm a Feminist parts that you could tell Nicola?
Okay, I have a few, but the one that like sticks in my mind most was I'm a feminist, but when watching Bridgerton with my legally blind stepdad, I was telling him all the different activities that they were doing when there was no dialogue. And I remember at one point, and you probably know this one, Nicola, at one point there was a lot of music going on, and he was like, what's going on? And I had to say to my stepdad, it's just a woman's interfering with herself. That's what she's doing there. I had to...
It's the most Irish way of saying it, to be fair.
I know.
It's so Catholic.
He never asked again. For any. He didn't need to know.
Nicola, do you have any Bridgerton I'm a Feminist parts?
So I am a feminist, but I was playing a really complex female character that was really well written. And one of the things I'm proudest of is how great my tatas looked in a corset.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
You said that. Because I was thinking that, and I didn't want to ever bring it up because I was like,
sometimes they were like a little, like some days they yanked the top a little too high and they were in my throat, which was not my favorite. But the other days when they sat at a sort of a normal human level, then it was all good. Yeah. You could sort of play them like bongos. That's
a very convenient shelf for the lasagna.
Oh, I would constantly balance things on it. I used to rest my head on them because you can when they're up. No, I'm not even joking. There's a picture of me. I did it in one scene. I slipped it in at one point. If you can spot it, it's in there of me just sort of going like that, and it's just
nice.
How were you affected by the reaction to Bridgerton? Because you were already in a hit with Derry Girls. Like, what were your expectations with Bridgerton, and how did they meet them?
Well, it's funny because I think, like, you know, when you come from like performing on stage, you come from that background, and you're coming from being like, is anyone going to come see this show tonight? For me, it was performing in theatre shows, not stand up, but like going to the box office and be like, how many people tickets have been bought? And they're like 20, and you go, okay, well, that was better than last night with 15. Okay, so I think I still have that mentality a little bit, and like I mean, you get inklings that things might be big, but you don't know. You physically can't know these things. So with Dairy Girls, there was like no expectation. But with Bridgerton, there was expectation because it's Shonda Rhimes. She's the most powerful woman in television, if not the most powerful showrunner in television, you know, and her teaming up with Netflix, it's her first thing. She left NBC, has done this deal. So you're like, I don't let Shonda down. If they just beat with me. And then, you know, the fact that when we found out it was a Christmas Day launch, I was like, well, they can't think it's rubbish if they're putting it out on Christmas Day, because that's a huge gamble. It's the biggest day of the year. And kind of all the publicity we shot for it. And people were saying, oh, this is huge. Like, we don't do this for shows normally. They must think. So you kind of start to piece it together and go, I think it might. But then it's funny because then it came out on Christmas Day. And then on Christmas Day, I went, no one's going to watch it. I just got it in my head. I was like, no one will watch this. That's it now. That's it. We made the show and I dedicated loads of time to it. That's it. No one will watch it. And then on Stephen's Day, well, sorry, I said Stephen's Day is an Irish person present, that's what we call Boxing Day. Yeah, the day after Christmas. Then it just sort of started popping up on social media in things that were not at all connected to me, and people were talking about it that I didn't know, and I was like, okay, people have started to watch it, and then it just went like blew up. And then, you know, Drew Barrymore was talking about it, and Billy Porter and Gabrielle Union from Bring It On was talking about it, and like, you know, all these people, and like, yeah, it's just what's been strange is that the only way of seeing the reaction is through social media, which is quite strange because it still feels very surreal because, you know, I've been locked in the house most of the time. So I don't know that I fully grasped it yet, but also I think it's lucky for me because I'm older when this is happening. So I can kind of put it in a place and that's really nice. I feel like if I was 21, I'd be like climbing the walls. I'd be freaking out. It'd be quite weird.
You don't have to tell us who. But are there any on-set romances between the cast?
Oh, so I'm so nosy that I ask this constantly.
Yes.
And they all say no. And what I think has happened is that I have established myself as so nosy that nobody will tell me.
Oh!
Because I always want it to happen. But like,
is it possible that they think you're going to write a newsletter about it, Nicola?
Yeah, I think that's it. I was getting into character. And, you know, I did start. Because in my head, I was like, okay, how does she do it? And how does this work? So sometimes I would sit in the tube and just listen into people's conversations. And it is amazing that people say they don't think anyone's listening. But no, I never really found out about anything. A lot of them were in long-term relationships and it was super boring for me. They should have thought about my needs in gossip-wise. But yeah, they didn't.
They didn't. Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to hearing more in the future because I believe Bridgerton's going to run a long time and I think there will be on-set romances. And I hope yours is one of them so you can tell me all the gossip.
Oh, 100%. You'll get all the gossip.
Fantastic. Nicola Coughlan, you have been an absolute delight. Alison Spittle, as always, you are wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And that was the Bridgerton scoop. And we are almost, Sindhu, out of time and at the end of our show. Well, we're way over time, but we're at the end of the show. Sindhu, it has been just wonderful to have you join us this International Women's Day week. Thank you for coming. Oh, is Sindhu muted?
There you go. Now, I was just seeing if you could lip read. You clearly can't. What is your skill set? Deborah, sort it out.
It's anyway, the theme of this year is you're on mute. It would, if we didn't have one, you're on mute. It wouldn't be this. It wouldn't be locked out.
Normal. It would be. I was just saying. It was great to see you. Great to be here on International Women's Day. Also great to hang out with all the guilty feminists and Maria Bamford and Alison Bechdel. Hello. So thank you for having me.
That was pretty snazzy, wasn't it? 10% of our ticket price tonight does go to Choose Love. But listen, if you get the stylist, you'll read all these inspirational stories or go on, download it for 99p, all these inspirational stories. And then if you have a £5, go and buy an emergency blanket for someone or a hot meal or something like that. If you have more money, if you're a bit more flush than usual because you're getting the same salary, but you've got nowhere to spend it because you don't go out, so all your disposable income is just sitting there. If you could, go out and buy something like, especially for International Women's Day, women's health services, women's services. There's a whole package there. Mental health services, which we've been talking about. There's LGBTQ support services. So go out and buy something like that. But if you've even just got a £5, because you're not buying your coffees out anymore, if you could give it to Choose Love, it would mean a lot to displaced women this International Women's Day. And now our final and exciting treat. It's our house band. It's Grace Petrie. Woo!
Hello. Thank you very much for having me back. Happy International Women's Week, everybody.
International Women's Day week is my favourite week of the year. It's feminist Christmas. But also, much like Santa, I am happy to be hanging up my boots and putting my sleigh into the garage for another year. Grace, have you had a good International Women's Day week?
Sure. I've been alone in my house. That's what
Where's
we've
your
all been doing
girlfriend?
for the past year. Oh, my girlfriend, we don't live together. She's in her house.
Okay.
We spent the
You're
lockdowns together, and then when she was kind of properly liberated by the last rule change, she's gone back to her house. So it's just me and the dog, who I'm sure is going to start barking any minute at all when I start singing.
He's a man. He's a man. He may disrupt.
He's intent on silencing me, but I will not be silent nor silenced. So,
Grace, what are you going to play for us?
I'm going to play a song that I wrote. This song is nearly a year old because I wrote it at the very start of the pandemic, and it's just about the situation that we're all in. But it's called "Storm to Weather," and I'm enjoying playing it at the moment. I've been recording it recently, ready for release, and I'm enjoying playing it at the moment because it's very much about the idea of like better times being on the way. And I'm really finding, I don't know about you guys, I don't know about you folks in the chat, but I'm really finding the longer, lighter days a real tonic at the moment. You know, I think really starting to see those evenings drawing back and feeling like, we've broken the back of it, guys. I think let's just keep on going, So there's a big line in the chorus that says, we will dance again next year, and I'm very much looking forward to when we're all back together at King's Place or wherever at one venue and dancing. I hope it's this year. You wrote that
last year, so that was a prophecy for this year. When I hear next year, I'm going to think June 21st, just to be clear, because I need to believe that.
I hope so.
She means this year.
Listen, it may not be June 21st, but I wrote an article for The Guardian this week in which I said I have to believe in June 21st. And in fact, I would believe it if Boris Johnson personally hand painted it on the side of a bus and drove around in that bus shouting out the window, not really. I would still believe it because I need to. Sindhu Vee, before we get Grace to sing this incredible song, do you have anything to plug or anything to say?
I have so many things to say, but I won't say them this evening because I've said enough. I will plug the following. I cannot wait to gig again in front of actual people and have the great joy of them not laughing at about 40% of the things I say, but laughing at the other 60%. So for that reason, I would like it. Well, if you came along to my shows, there's going to be shows that are starting up, but my tour starts in September. And you can get the tickets through my website, sindhuvee.com. And the tour, the show is called Alphabet. Come and watch it. Let's be together.
Grace Petrie, do you have anything to plug? Oh, Sindhu, ask Grace that. That was my line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And talking about plugs. Oh, no, now I want to say.
We don't plan anything, and this is the reason. Nothing else tonight's been planned except the running order for exactly this reason.
Now that I've said talking about plugs, I always obviously want to talk about what particular kind of plug, but I won't. I would just go straight to Grace.
We can stay on the chat after the audience have gone and talk about that if you'd like.
That's going to have to go. What do you have to plug?
We live in hope that I've also got a tour in the future that people can come to, hopefully. All of my spring gigs have been moved again into the autumn, and all of the dates are at my website. But also I have a new T-shirt out. It's like a baseball shirt, long sleeve T-shirt, which is like, it's got the lyrics from this song on, and a beautiful design that was designed by a wonderful tattoo artist based in Leicester called Jamie Greaves that I think is very beautiful.
So it's gracepetrie.com. Go buy the merch because this solo musician has not been able to tour or sell any tickets. So buy her shirt, buy her music, and support her because she is our very own Grace Petrie. And if you could also, if you're interested in my book, 6 Conversations We're Scared to Have, please pre-order it now because that will encourage the publishers to think that they've done the right thing in commissioning it. And I need confidence. I've been alone for a long time. I feel invisible. So thank you very, very much for coming and watching. And I'll come back on to say goodbye at the end. But for now, take it away, Grace Petrie!
Thank you very much.
Are getting darker and you're scared of what they bring, and you are searching the horizon for some sign, some little spark, a morning that will chase away the dark. Heavy was the winter, love, and what's become of spring? This demon came and got its claws in every little thing. Now there are miles and glass and distance that are keeping me apart from the beating of your strong and steady heart. And if it sinks, my darling, then just close your eyes and think of when you'll be in my arms again. There's a storm here to weather, the thunder's coming near, louder than ever, and we don't know where to steer. And though we can't be together, no matter what lies here, I will love you forever, and we will dance again next year. I will love you forever, and we will dance again next year. This world is unfamiliar now, it's turned us all around. A sailboat in a hurricane and nothing's bolted down. And whichever way you turn, there is no sanctuary in sight, no path to some safe harbour in the night. But I am sailing right beside you, I am just out of arm's length, willing you remember you are raw of iron strength. And I am hanging my tomorrows on the bones of yesterday, all I can do to make it through today. And when my heart sinks, my darling, then I close my eyes and I think of when you'll be in my arms again. There's a storm here to weather, the thunder's coming near, louder than ever, and we don't know where to steer. Though we can't be together, no matter what, my dear, I will love you forever, and we will dance again next year. I will love you forever, and we will dance again next year. So let's look fast and hold on fast, and do your worst, this too will pass. And when it does, I'll be there to fill your glass. There's a storm here to weather, 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 the thunder's coming near, louder than ever, and we don't know where to steer. And though we can't be together, no matter what, my dear, I will love you forever, and we will dance again next year. I will love you forever, and we will dance again next year. I will love you forever, and we will dance again next year. I will love you forever, and we will dance again next year.
Grace Petrie, everybody!
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
It's so moving, that song, and uplifting. You can do moving and uplifting at the same time. Not many people can do that. Just you and Taylor Swift. You're the only two.
That's why we should get married.
Your girlfriend is watching.
No, I prefer you. I prefer you.
My future wife that way, Cindy.
Yeah, it's Tay and Beatry all the way.
I have to only
see
visit
it.
you when she's not home. Sorry.
Listen, it was absolutely wonderful to have you on, Grace, and phenomenal to co-pilot this show with you, Sindhu. Everybody who's tuned in, thank you so much. This has been our International Women's Day week extravaganza. We are the Guilty Feminist. You are the best fans, followers, and listeners in the world. Thank you so much. That's our show. Good night.
You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Sindhu Vee, and our very special guests Maria Bamford, Alison Bechdel, Lisa Smosarski, Josie Naughton, Sophie Duca, Jackie Weaver, Alison Spittle, Nicola Coughlan, and Grace Petrie. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge and produced by Nick Sheldon. The producer for The Spontaneity Shop was Tom Zielinski. Thanks to everyone at Looped Live, everyone at UTA, and everyone else who helped make this special episode happen. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm almost not sure what happens next, but I think it's this.